Let me guess. You just got a used bike that is new to you, or maybe you've used your bike so much that it's falling apart and you're wondering, what upgrade should you make to keep your bike up to date and running perfectly? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Josh here again with Daily Mountain Bike Rider, and today I want to share with you what I consider my top 5 upgrades you should make on your used bike. Now, if you've been following my channel for long, then you'll know that I have 2 awesome sponsors, FSA Components and NS Bikes, and the truth is I haven't had a used bike for over a year and a half. So you may be wondering, why am I making a video on what used bike upgrades you should make? Well, the truth is, before I got sponsored, I was a huge fan of buying used bikes. I love that you can get a better bang for your buck and have a little more money to make upgrades on, and I love helping other people out get a higher end bike that maybe they couldn't afford if they bought new. Along with that, I also have a lot of friends that have me help them buy new bikes, and they're always wondering what needs to be upgraded. And last but not least, my bikes are getting to the point where I need to start thinking about what upgrades I need to make. So I compiled my top 5 list on the things I think will make the biggest difference to your bike and keep it running like new and working perfectly. Upgrade number 1 is what I think is the easiest thing to overlook but makes a huge difference on performance, and that is your cables and your cable housing. If you're anything like me, then after a while you notice your shifting is not working very well, isn't as crisp as it used to be, or maybe your dropper post lever keeps getting stuck or just doesn't work as well. A lot of times we can think that our equipment is the problem, but really can come down to something as simple as a cable that costs $1. Cables are typically the first thing people go to replace for their dropper post or their shifter, as it's very easy to take one out and put it back in. But along with your cables, you also want to consider replacing your cable housing. If you look inside your cable housing, you'll notice that it's a bunch of wire, and that over time with water and the elements, that can become corroded, and even if you put a fresh cable inside of it, there's still friction there. So I encourage people, after about 6 months to a year, you should really consider replacing your cable housing and your inner cables to keep your shifting, your dropper post, and even your mechanical brakes, if you have those, running smoothly. Upgrade number 2 is one that I see most used bikes have a desperate need for, and that is their wheel sets. When we talk about wheel sets, we're not talking about the tires on the outside, but actually the rim, the spokes, and the hubs. If you look at your rear wheel, I would encourage you to look at 2 main areas. The first is the outside part called your rim. If you spin your tire, you might notice that your wheel looks like it's waving like a piece of bacon, or you may see a lot of flat spots on your rim. This is a sign that either your wheel is out of true, you've had a hard impact that may have damaged your rim, and you should probably take it into your local shop for them to take a look at it. A lot of times, local shops will true your wheel, making it straight again so you can go ride, but sometimes the damage that you've done, if you're anything like me, is too much for the wheel and it needs to be replaced. Now, along with that, you should also have them check out your hub. That is what your wheel spins around your axle with, and a lot of times people neglect caring for their hub. They don't make sure it has properly packed bearings, and a lot of wear and tear can happen on a hub that people just don't realize. Now, you could just replace the hub itself or the rim, but a lot of times if you ask for the cost at a local bike shop, you'll realize that it's usually better to salvage the parts that you can go and sell elsewhere and pour that money into a new wheel set. I cannot recommend highly enough my sponsor FSA's Afterburner wider wheel set. This is the one that I have been running on my hardtail all year and even thrown on my full suspension bike. It's a super durable, really reasonably priced wheel set at just about $600, and for me it has taken an absolute beating with everything I've thrown at it. To be honest, I haven't trued that wheel yet, and when I look at it today, it's straight as an arrow and has worked perfectly. So be sure to check them out down in the link below. I actually helped my friend Isaac recently upgrade his bike with this wheel set, and they have been flawless. Now, speaking of wheel sets, the third upgrade you should consider making is your tires. Now, I'm not just talking about tires that are totally worn out and you see that they need to be replaced, but I'm also talking about tires that don't match the terrain that you typically ride. With entry-level bikes or cheaper or used bikes, sometimes the tires on there can totally not be suited for the riding that you do. For instance, an entry-level bike I bought a friend had really slim cross-country tires that gave 0 traction in the mud and the wet that we find here in the Pacific Northwest. Tires can seem like an intimidating thing to buy, but I always encourage people, check out Maxxis. They're one of the most well-known brands, and for about 50 bucks a tire, you can get some of the best compounds, tackiest grip, and find a tread that's going to match the riding style that you do. If you have questions on what tires are best for you and your conditions, I cannot recommend highly enough, go visit your local bike shop, ask them and look at their inventory. Or if you're curious, you can click my Amazon link down below. I've put in there my favorite tires that I use on all my bikes and have worked pretty well in almost all conditions. Upgrade number 4 is a big one, but again, it's one that I see a need for on a lot of used bikes, and that is drivetrain. When we talk about drivetrain, that is basically your gears, your chain, and your crank. For a lot of people on a used bike, they either have a 3x or 2x drivetrain, which is pretty out of date in the mountain bike world now, or their 1x drivetrain has enough wear and tear that they need to replace a chain, cassette, maybe a front chain ring, and a derailleur. Just like in your Wheelset, you can replace each part individually, but it's pretty amazing how much an entire group set costs. In fact, I found an NX Eagle 12-speed group set with a crank for $255 on Amazon, which I think is probably mispriced, so go click below and buy that before it goes away. But you can also head over to a shop like the Losco, which is my local shop, and they have the whole drivetrain minus the crank for $275. You get 12-speed Eagle, a way better range, and it fits most hubs. Being that a drivetrain is what propels our bike forward, it can seem like an expensive thing to upgrade, but really it's the core that gets you out there having a great time on your bike. Now, upgrade number 5 is one you may not have thought of, or maybe you have thought about, but don't realize how much a new one will help you out, and that is a dropper seat post. On a lot of used bikes, we see that they have a standard seat post where you have to get off your bike, lower the seat post, and then once you get to an uphill, you have to get off your bike again and raise it back up. It's such a pain in the butt, and a dropper seat post totally fixes that for you. But on top of that, a lot of people have entry-level seat posts that just don't work that good or get mucked up really quickly, or you may have an unfortunate RockShox reverb, which you'll know has an issue because every time you sit on it, it starts to go up and down. The fix is getting it totally rebuilt, which costs a lot of money, and really you're better spent investing that in a new seat post that's reliable, that will last you a long time, and hopefully have more drop in it, more ability to get that saddle out of the way. Now, of course, I have a shout out my sponsor, FSA, who makes the Flowtron dropper seat post. I've been running this for the last year here in Washington in every condition possible, and my droppers have had no issues whatsoever. But I really encourage you, do your research, find droppers that have great reviews, and make sure they can hold up to the conditions you're going to throw at it. All right, that about wraps up my top 5 list of upgrades you should make to your used bike. But I realize I probably missed some things that you think is a good upgrade to make and other people should hear about. So do me a favor, leave a comment down below, and I'll make sure to like the ones that I think other people should see. Along with that, you'll be interested to hear that I'm going to make a top 5 upgrades not to make for used bikes, because I've seen way too many people spend too much money on upgrades that don't increase their performance and don't increase the value of the bike when they sell it. So be on the lookout for that in the next couple weeks. All right, you know what time it is. Don't spend too much time watching a guy talk about upgrading parts on your mountain bike, but get out there, ride your bike, whether it's new or used, and make sure you do it every day.